good.
Okay, maybe we should try to get going.
Yeah.
If she comes in, that's fine too. Okay. It is 6:04, and we, the Planning and Zoning Commission, call this meeting to order on October 4th, 2022. Dave, are there any citizens with business not scheduled on the agenda who would like to speak at this time?
Not personally, we've got a few here for 3 of the 4 items that are for action outside of the minutes. So we will save them until we get to those items.
Sounds good. Item number 1 on the agenda, consideration and possible action on the September 6th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 6th, 2022 minutes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
To approve. Okay, we have a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? None. It passes. The motion passes. Item number 2, consideration of possible action on a recommendation to City Council for a variance request for gravel in lieu of asphalt or concrete for the parking lot of the Montgomery Grove located at 22,016 Eva Street.
Members of the commission, this is the old Heritage House restaurant. Again, what the Montgomery Grove is, the owner, Mr. Cheatham's here to be able to answer, we're, I guess, discussing these other that we like. I've been talking with them since early this year, just after we're about the middle of January, on kind of the process and what they need to do. Our recommendation is not submitting the engineering drawings that would help, that would get them through the normal development process that any development in the city would get. And so staff's opinion is that there's just not enough information at this time to be able to make a solid recommendation. In your package, you'll note that this Montgomery Grove was, before they bought this property, was at just up the hill, just right next to Solomon Electric. If you've seen the Hauser Landscaping Services there, just to the west of where Solomon Electric is. They were looking at that site, had proposed a gravel parking lot using what is known as or the brand of it is a true grid system, which is an engineered system that's for gravel. That's not what they were proposing here. In March, they put down some asphalt millings, and so what the ask here is to be able to continue to use that. Again, just without any of the other stuff that would normally be reviewed by the engineers. There's our opinion is that there's just not enough information to be able to make a recommendation until we understand more about the floodplain, the drainage, and that kind of thing.
So this is just for the variance to redo it with that asphalt?
No, this is to, Josh, do you know that?
Yeah.
This is to keep the current gravel asphalt millings that have been in place.
Right. So you're not extending or making it bigger? Or, no. Okay. All right.
No, and this property goes back almost 50 years
Yeah.
here. Montgomery has always been some type of gravel.
I've been there a couple times, but this never came up. Is there a concrete or a asphalt apron coming in
Yes.
off the road?
Yes.
Okay, you'll maintain that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that's already in place.
Right.
And we do have engineered drawings, a site plan that specifically outlines the parking lot, shows we're meeting the parking ordinance. We have that from Elsewhere Engineering. We also have drawings for the remodel of the restaurant that show the ADA compliance.
Right.
And the ADA parking spots as well that would meet all that based on the current material.
Okay. And
I'll
so,
point out between those two drawings, between the building permit and the ADA spaces where they were shown, does not match what the engineer drawing says. They reduced and moved the ADA parking. over the weekend that there are some additional old railroad the cross ties that are there. Those are at an angle to suggest angle parking along the building, which is again not what they showed on the engineer or the drawing that was prepared by the engineer. So again, kind of our struggle has been to get a consistent set of plans that show exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, it's a fairly extensive plan overall, and we all look forward to the great potential down there. It's already been a big hit. So I take it tonight, it looks like tonight really looks like we're going to need to table it. But my question to you, Dave, is I really think we ought to take the opportunity to have a discussion, because it's an important discussion based on past and future. And by the way, I appreciate you men being here, everybody tonight. We usually say that right up front. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here, because it really helps us. So thank you for being here. So Bill, you had a point. Did you get your answer? Okay, I just didn't want to.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not trying to change, but I think we need to, my question is, if we're going to table this tonight because of various issues, drainage and overall scope, can we still have a discussion before we table it, or should we?
But are we here to give Mr. Cheatham a variance
Or just a recommendation to council on the surface. And
of what's there?
what they've installed there as the asphalt millings that is over the old parking lot.
Right. Okay, so that's what we're,
So that's what we're being asked.
okay, and then the rest of the grid system, that's later on after.
No, that has nothing to do.
Oh, you're not going to do that?
So-
Right.
Okay, I'm confused because I knew that
Yeah,
was
there's
all
two-
in this package. Okay.
Right.
So the kind of going through the packet, just kind of explaining what do you have in there. So you have obviously the variance request letter, and then on page 11 you see the site plan provided by with the variance request on page 11 of your packets. It has the 3 ADA spaces against the building. Page 12 and 13 are copies of surveys. One you'll note is dated November of 2021 on page 13, and then one on June of 2022 on page 12. Just shows the difference in what has been changed on the site over the past, of this time period, which is 6 to 7 months or so, with the larger gravel area, adding the cornhole courts, etc. on here. And the main difference, and I'm not sure if I misprinted my packet or if what made it into yours is different, but there was a site plan provided by L Squared, which would have been on sheet 14. My printed, it's just my printing. Okay. It shows 2 ADA spaces closer to the courts, the cornfield.
Okay.
Cornhole?
Just the back of the.
Right.
And I'm not sure how they did that.
And so that's what we're talking about, just trying to get, what is the plan? The second part of this is the material itself. So during the last variance request for a food truck parked on 105 up the hill, it was a true grid paper system, and the recommendation that came from P&Z and then ultimately was approved by council was that the driveway off of 105 had to be paved, which is what it is today and what is there. And then the actual parking surface could be the true grid system. The difference here is the variance request is not for the true grid, it's for just the asphalt millings compaction on the
Okay,
ground.
I got you. Okay.
Well, I'd like to add that original property it still is, and it has been residential. It was never commercial property.
Right.
The old Heritage House property has been a commercial property operating up to like 2018.
Yeah, I forgot
I mean, it was
about
Heritage House, then it was Annie's. They sold it in late 2016 to Annie's when all these new ordinances were put into place, and they were able to keep the asphalt millings as well. I'd also like to add that when I met with the city in January 26, they said we were grandfathered in and could keep the gravel material. And that is when after that meeting, we improved upon it and just, made it better. There was some grass that had grown up, and we just cleaned it up and added some asphalt millings. So we were under the impression that, we could do it.
Yeah.
Spent money to do it.
I think there's just a difference of opinion on what they recall from that meeting. The email that I It's sent to them on January 14th, said, here's the development handbook, here's the process, let us know if you have questions, but the idea that you're grandfathered because there was a gravel parking lot there, 15 years ago is not the same as, we told them that they didn't have to have an asphalt parking lot because the question became, what do we need to do to open a food truck on it? We're not doing anything else, we're just opening a food truck. Well, no, you don't have to have an asphalt parking lot to open a food truck or to have a food truck, permit. That's not part of a mobile food vendor permit. But if you're gonna develop a property, you're gonna follow the ordinances that are on the books at the time you develop a property.
Sure.
And so that's where there's just been just kind of a disconnect between the city and the developers and who are the owners. And
Well, we're following the remodel, redevelopment process that's in the development handbook. We haven't built any new structures on that property and don't plan to do so. We're simply remodeling the restaurant. So there's no new infrastructure, utilities have been in place, where we're not, developing anything on the property, we're just remodeling the restaurant. And like I said, we provided engineered drawings, show that we meet the ordinance for parking spaces and ADA compliance. So I'm just confused as to, where the disconnect's coming.
Yeah.
Sure. And I will say, we've got a few new people, so just briefly, I might just try to shed a little light on history, but by the way, that was a great presentation. I think it was Catherine did on the grid system for your other property, and for that application, that would have been, that was very doable. Overall, I just wanted to say there's pros and cons on, on this look of a permeable surface. Obviously, for certain types of properties, very casual, like we've done in other places, it's a good look. The only point I want to make is the pros are it's a good, it gives it character, it's a certain look for that type of property, but the con is the maintenance. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is just our last three that we've approved. There was the I'm sorry, I have there was the Longview Greens, Cornerstone Community Church, Hodgepodge Lodge, just to name a few. We've got about 10, 8 or 10. I think we have 10 now in the city. But my point is, we've learned, a good example is Longview Greens. He now keeps a pile of the asphalt filings on property, and he constantly addresses it because there are areas that settle. So it's improved. We've seen the same thing at the church. They keep a pile there. And where I'm going with that is, I think it can be a great way to go for all the good reasons. It's permeable and less runoff, and the look is fine as long as it's maintained. Right. And I know over at Hodgepodge, I think you're getting ready to do you've got a pile back there in the corner of the parking lot.
Yeah, we're always having to put more down.
Yes.
Just doesn't seem like it holds very well. I mean, you get a big, waste management or one of these trucks come in there and they just,
Yeah, right.
You almost have to dig out
Yeah.
all the good
But you put in a lot of good quality, and we learned the hard way on some of the parking lot at the old community center. That guy left town, but they never did it right. It was too big of stones. They never did that nice fine layer on top.
Yeah, we did this, top notch as best you can do it. There's none of that
Right.
white rock with dust and any of that.
Yeah.
Waste management's been coming. We've had,
Yeah.
been very successful, had a good following in the community. There's cars that have been there in and out. There's been rains. It's held up fine.
So I think because of the past and what we've seen, I think I think I'm speaking kind of in general, is that if we're going to down the road approve these type of surfaces, is maybe let's think about a way that once a year or twice a year we do this, the city has to inspect, or something to say you're maintaining that without being too overly. I think that's the real issue here is if they're maintained and done right, they work great, but they got to be maintained. And
the other concern that I have personally is if a lot of the property is in the floodplain, and so this is a permeable surface that we have on there. We put concrete or asphalt, it's going to create a lot of sheet flow of water that's going to run.
Yes. Yeah,
It could make our outside entertainment area unusable. Right. Just mud and water and everything else. Not to mention, if we had to shut down for a month or two to totally redo this parking lot and that cost, that takes up business.
And it shows on the plat that it all runs north, down the parking lot.
North and northwest.
And northwest, yeah, and that's a good point. And I think that was what I was trying to say, the pros and cons, and, you know, for certain types of properties, which is, in the future, we would have to determine what properties are allowed to do that.
There's, you know, like you said, there's certain,
It's been there for 50 years and it's worked. We're not trying to.
Yeah. And I'll say, that, you know, we just had one come up last week, this brand new, the Watershed Counseling Center on 149. Beautiful property, he's really done a lot of improvements. Just last week, he put in a whole lot more of this, what we're talking about. And I went over there today, it looks like he brought in the real fine stuff to put on top.
We're in contact with them as well, because they've kind of gotten ahead of themselves.
Yeah.
To really do the, you know, kind of, and again, you know, it's in the floodplain, so we're kind of working through the same issues there. If I can just address one thing about the gravel parking lot. So this is not a permeable surface, right? Because water going through gravel, you would have a mud hole. If it were permeable, the substrate would be soft and mushy. There's nothing there except, you know, compacted fill. So this is not a permeable surface and by any, you know, measurable standard, right?
It holds more, you know, it's better than concrete or asphalt.
Right,
But it's not the same as grass or true grit, stuff like
it'll
that.
stop the flow.
Correct.
a little.
It's
not
in
as quick.
between. It's not a, you know, it's not the same as grass field. And I think, you know, kind of the main point here is you know, this is really no different than the food truck park at the top of that. You know, the concept of having a gravel surface, you know, there's not really necessarily the issue with that. It's the issue with, you know, making sure that, you know, we have what the site plan is, where the ADA spaces are going to be, because this does tie into a bigger development, and that, you know, we're hitting those points. Because, you know, what in your package on page 35, kind of the planned improvements on this site, you know, included, you know, additional, a stage area, parking lot lighting. And once you get parking lot lighting, now there's the lighting ordinance.
Right.
Gets into that. You know, the stage area would be.
We're not doing that. I mean, we're just trying to get a restaurant open at this point. This has been a 2-year process going back and forth, getting conflicting information. It's not fun.
Yeah, well, yes.
So do we need to first approve the variance and then send it? Or we just table it now to,
So you've got several or several options. One, you can recommend that city council were to approve the variance. You can recommend to city council to deny the variance, or you can recommend the city council to table the variance request until they've submitted the, you know, the drawings that will be required. for
Okay.
development.
Well, again, we provided an engineered site plan, so what have we not provided that's needed?
Is the plat under review, or are we looking to distinctly at the variance request for the gravel?
There's not a plat that's been submitted, it's still not a plat.
yeah, I think in town, there's places for the gravel parking lots and places for not. You know, something like Mr. Cheatham's place, I mean, if you put a big black parking lot there, it's not as soft as it should be down there. But then again, just like everything else, you know, you got to follow the right procedures. So, I mean, I don't know where everybody's at, but I'll make a motion to pass the variance on to the city council upon proper drawings for Chris, the engineers, and everyone to look at for proper parking and the ADAs and everything else.
I mean, again, it's been submitted. If we need to change the ADA, then we can, I mean, that's an easy fix.
And to answer kind of your question and the question of what is left. So the drawing that was submitted, you know, we just got this, I think I saw it for the first time last week. You know, it's the difference in where the ADA spaces are. So we just need to know from what's in the variance to what's in the plan, which one's going to go forward. And that's an easy enough clarification.
Right.
The design, it's not a signed and sealed drawing. There's no information on that. or there's no material on this
Okay.
plan. So there's some things that, again, if y'all are okay with the gravel and it goes to council, it doesn't change the approval process, it just says, okay, now you can do the gravel with the millings, you don't need to do the true grid, and then we'll work with Josh and his engineer to get the drawing to match what they need, and then go through the normal plan
Yeah.
approval process.
Are you able to offer an opinion, like a professional opinion on if that would work, like that surface would work as opposed, like, or would you like to see something different over there in terms of like drainage and,
I mean, ultimately, it's gonna be up to the site engineer to provide that statement in his certification that by making these, putting the additional gravel and doing this is not causing adverse impacts downstream. And he has to put his seal on that he's not causing any harm to anyone else. You know, on this, I think that a gravel parking lot in this situation is appropriate. It was appropriate the last time we looked at, you know, this similar, and at that time it was, you know, 4 or 5 food trucks, I think, at the top of the hill. So it's, but similar to the city's ultimate responsibility.
Hey, so I just did a restaurant with gravel over in Magnolia, and what we did to make it lasting and not have problems was we brought in limestone, lime basically, and tilled it into the earth, compacted it, 97% compaction rate, and we went back with a crushed concrete, which actually over time will start to seal itself off like concrete does, and then we topped it with crushed granite for aesthetic looks, and you know, helps with the dust as well. And with that, you're gonna have a yearly upkeep on it, but it's pretty solid. I mean, they have beer trucks and dump trucks and everything else that come in here every day at that site.
Okay, we have a, thank you, and we have a good motion on the floor, but I think it's good to have.
Recommend approval of it, even contingent on submitting the engineering drawings and getting approved.
Correct. Yes.
And-
Just
and let me- well-
one question real quick. I don't know much about, you know, the ADA. Does that have to be paved for ADA? Does that have to be asphalted or black?
ADA spaces should, yes, the
Yeah,
ADA spaces.
it's,
Okay.
and he
Each
did,
spaces will have to be.
Okay, I was just, I didn't-
and Longview Golf did do that, and I think some, yeah.
Okay.
So it looks good.
You know, it's-
So,
The reason that they were shown where they were on the building permit, or when it was submitted with the building permit, is not only do they have to be paved, there has to be an accessible route to, you know, the entry of the facility, or in this case, the entry, you know, to the restaurant. So
Right.
it's-
And all that's been clearly outlined in our renovation plans that have been approved by the city, the fire marshal, and the health department.
okay, all right.
okay, and as part of the discussion before we vote, excuse me, but Josh makes a very good point that just like we did with the church, if we're going to look at this as just improving the existing heritage house, you know, I think that's a point we have to be clear about. I mean, yes, there's going to be some expansion, but do we look at it like, you know, not a new property, but just improving on the existing, because it was always granite of some kind. Do you understand? Because that was your point.
Maybe I'm answering your question, but it is a redevelopment. So it's not a new development. There's existing taps. We're not changing
Yeah.
taps or the meters. You know, it's an interior, right now, it's an interior renovation of the building and a, you know, upgrade of the parking service.
Right.
If, you know, down the road, if site lighting is added or the stage is added, you know, that's an additional review step, because again, you know, there's lighting ordinance, there's floodplain ordinance and things like that. So,
Okay.
you know, right now, you know, the discussion is the parking lot, the layout, the ADA, and how those relate to getting ultimately the building permits and everything in the CO for the city on the restaurant. Is it accurate?
Okay, great. And as part of that discussion, I think everybody here agrees, please get good advice on the best way to, you know, to finish off the surface.
Sure.
Because there's been some that have not held up well. So, and just by the way, I think the True Grid was great for up at more of a flat surface, but here we've got a whole different situation. You know, elevation changes, and so a very natural look to it. Anything
I second that motion with the contingency.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. No, any opposition? No opposition, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Item number 3, consideration of possible action. Possible action on the proposed freestanding sign for Hodgepodge Lodge located at 300 Prairie Street in the Historic Preservation District.
Members of the commission, Mr. Angelo is here. You have in your packet there what he is proposing for a sign, kind of an atypical, design, kind of a unique design, in that it's not a normal sign, material. There's kind of a greenery or faux greenery then with the lighted letters. So if you'd like to ask him any questions, he's here to answer it.
It's a neat looking sign.
Yeah.
How is that,
Unique.
during the daytime, is that white also? Okay, okay.
Yeah, the sign letters themselves, and I have them all in, we have them made in China. That's where it was made. Each letter is individual, so you can kind of scale it how it
Oh,
is.
okay.
But, every letter's white, and then at night, they, they light up. So
Right.
it's LED lights, so it's,
Yeah. Is there any, do we need to look at any of the luminous or whatever you,
Oh, yeah, lumens,
is there anything on that we have to look at, the brightness?
brightness.
There is a requirement that signs are not allowed to be, or that signs are not allowed to, I guess, be more than 700 lux, which is, I believe, lumens per square foot. And so there's a tool that you can use to do that. Anytime, while I'm not a lighting expert, this doesn't give me pause that these would do that. Typically,
Is it a sign company that you're basically dealing
it's
with?
who I had built it, yes. And they're not bright. It's bright enough to be able to see, but you're talking 200 feet off the road, so.
Yeah.
It's not like it's really more of a marker than anything else, because we do so many weddings and other types of events. A lot of folks come from Houston and Katy and places like that. It's not as easy to find us. So if they're coming down 105 and they just, they turn their head to the right, and they can see at least they know where they're
Right.
But we do it all the time. We didn't even know you existed, and we just need some way to mark or designate that that's where we're at.
How far, it's going to be right kind of in the center?
Yeah, be right in the
Of
center
your-
where
of your building.
past the wheat fence is, and then we'll put a faux boxwoods, so it look like a boxwood, and then the sign letters will be spread out over that. There's a little sign down at the bottom that tells what it is. Any restaurant.
So that's down here where the old car is about, or?
On the other side of that,
On the-
on the facing 105 side.
Yes, but that far down, about
About where that is right
about where
there.
the house is, yeah. Okay, because it is a long distance to the 105, and you really have to have that much size to even, to be
Yeah,
able to
that's the
see
reason
it.
we made it a little bit bigger like that,
Yeah.
so that you could see it, but
Yeah.
it's not ostentatious, but it's enough to where you can, if you glance over there, you'll at least know what's behind it.
It's a unique design because technically, if you count the boxwoods, you're over the size limit, but you're fine as far as the lettering,
Yeah.
which serves the purpose. The only question I had was, I'm sure the quality of the boxwood material is it a vinyl or something?
Yes,
It'll hold up.
it's for outdoor
Yeah.
use, right?
Yeah. The only other thing, and this was brought up, I think, in the notes, is, I don't know if we have to include this in part of it, but we've got a vacant lot there in front of you. In the future, if something goes in there, I just wonder if that would have to be a discussion with
Probably at some point, but being freestanding as it will be, then
Yeah.
we can make adjustments, or go with a whole different sign concept. I
Right.
mean, that,
well, there's a good chance they could block your sign.
and
But-
that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
we're taking that risk. We understand.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Now,
And-
okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, that property's been vacant for 24 years, and when Chris bought it, I talked with Mac. Mac was just so thankful to get rid of it, But, they had plans to put a little boutique hotel up there, at least that's what they told me.
Yes.
And then, we were all in favor of that, but that never really materialized. So I don't know what they're going to do with it. I know it's got a ground lease attached to it now, which maybe.
Well, like you said, it would just take care of it. I think you would just have to deal with it at the time. We just wouldn't want to get anybody upset. But I don't see it being a problem because.
No, I mean, it's mobile, it's movable, and it's all gonna be, hung on the structure where that you can just pull it off, one word at a time if you had to move it to a different space or whatever.
Yes.
Now, just it says in the notes here that the fence is almost on the property line. Are
Yes,
you
we're
going to be allowed on the
That's a great
property?
question, Rob. If y'all hadn't made me mad, I could have had a visit with him. No, kidding.
Because I don't want to get into another
I
truth
guess you
war.
made us happy, but I didn't get to it soon enough. No, they're not gonna, I can't imagine they would be that ticky-tacky. We're about a foot behind the property line. When we put that fence up, we did it purposely for that reason. But yeah, I mean, we'll need access to be able, but it's not, we're not talking multiple days. I mean, this is gonna be a one-day
Yeah,
project.
well, I mean for maintenance and
Cleaning.
whatnot.
Well, yes, and Gary agreed, the only maintenance really would be on the electrical side, on the back side, and that's gonna be on our side.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Once the sign itself is up there, I mean, if we did have to, change the letter out or whatever, then yes, we would need access, but, I mean, Josh and Chris have always been, pretty fair about that. I mean, we try to play together.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess they could be ticky-tacky and shut it down and say, don't set foot on my property, but stranger things have happened. I doubt that.
No, I'm sure you can work that out.
No, we all pretty much try to, everybody gets along. We're in this community to try to grow the community, and it's, just like this restaurant they're trying to put together. I mean, I'm all in favor. I mean, in DC, I'm all about economic development. I want to see the city grow, and the only way we can do it is to grow our businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever it takes. But yeah, it's really more to give more of a marker. It's not going to blow people away, but it will be something that you can see from the street and hopefully get us, some exposure to.
Yeah.
And get that a lot more exposure. I mean, get people to look over there, they'll see it a lot, so maybe something good for them.
Well, it is good marketing. People heading down 105.
And really when people find us, they find us on their phones, on Google, and I've got analytics that show how people find us, and it's mostly on their phone, but just to be able to actually find us, sometimes they're not quite clear with the streets, the way Prairie is this way, and I don't even know what that street is again. It's a crazy street. It's the one you want to stop at the stoplight and you get in trouble.
And it should be a nice look too. I mean, actually, a nice look at night where, just a quality to.
Yeah, just give us a little character as you're kind of coming into town like that. But you're right, they could put something in front of it. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but if we get a few years out of it, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And like you say, you can always move it around if you have to.
Yeah, we can move it around. I think it's a super easy structure.
Is it one piece? How is it set up?
So each word is on one piece of Lexan, and that kind of blends in with the greenery on the back.
Yep.
And then so you just they're on standpipes. Each letter's on, and they kind of screwed into the back of the letter and then it kind of pulls. It's just a little bit off the fence because you got the greenery. But yeah, it's super easy to.
What's the actual fence made of?
Sorry?
What's the actual fence made of?
The
greenery
fence
portion,
made-
inside the greenery.
Oh, the greenery's made of vinyl.
Okay.
Or plastic.
Oh, yeah, but is it just, I guess what I'm saying, what's the structure, what's holding that up?
The back.
You've got the two posts on either side. What's in between the two posts that hold up the sign?
Oh, it's a basket weave Well,
Okay.
it's not basket weed now. That section is actually straight. With the idea of putting this up down the road when we rebuilt the fence, the whole fence was blown down by a tornado in January. And so,
Yeah.
we came back and when we rebuilt it structurally, we added multiple posts throughout the entire structure because before, that wind it took out 450 feet of fence. So now it's more engineered to be more structurally sound. And so this will be the same. It'll have multiple posts on each side to hold it up. We're looking at 6x6s, I think. That we already have there. We're going to add two more on either side and two more in the middle. We got to cut it and kind of
Yeah, you get
structure to be in code.
So unique design. Okay.
I like it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Angelo.
Thank you.
I move to approve the signage as proposed.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen. Anytime you get started, or is it pretty night tonight? You won't come help? I We'll be ready to go. That sounds good. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Item number 4, consideration and possible action regarding proposed exterior modifications to the Cozy Grape located at 14,340 Liberty Street in the Historic Preservation District.
Members of the commission, you saw this just several months ago. And again, the plans have changed a bit from an enclosed second story to a balcony second story. The idea for the first floor is still the same. The old wood deck is going to be taken out with a concrete foundation added, and again with just a balcony above. They've designed the balcony to accommodate a roof if they ever wanted to add that and close it, if they ever wanted to do that. So what they're asking for now is just the balconies. Or I guess the second floor balcony along with the remodel of the first floor.
Okay.
So the first floor, that'll all be a new foundation. Do you know if you're going to screen it in? Or?
And this is Barry Mitchell, he's a contractor for it. Barry, if I could get you to come over here just so I can see you on the video later so I can hear you well.
So right now, they are not going to be closing in the bottom. It's just going to be, there's obviously going to be a handrail, but it's going to be kind of open air eating. The layout of what you see over there right now is pretty much going to stay the same, except the material's going to change. And instead of it being a roof on top, it's going to be a second open air deck up top with a handrail around it. And it'll have access on the side from a staircase, which is right next to where, if you go over there right now, there's an ATM. And then just past that, there's the ADA ramp, the wheelchair ramp that goes along the back porch. So there'll be a staircase there, and then also you'll have access from the second story. The engineer designs at our stamped, they show closing it in, which was originally the plan, but what they're wanting to do now is just have the second deck up top. So we don't want to open in permanent, obviously, but they want they wanted to keep the engineer drawings as is. So in the future, if they wanted to close it in, that it's already, the structural part's going to be built to the same plans. And in the future, if they ever want to close it in, those plans are already engineered and done. So.
Right.
So they still come back to y'all for approval of the roof, the walls, or anything like that. We talked a little bit the last time we talked about the parking spaces and what the seats, or what the seating capacity was. Right now they have 15 spaces. I did just kind of a rough guess on the maximum. So the way for food establishment, the way that it reads is there's one parking space for every 2 employees at the maximum shift. I took a guess and say that there would be 6 employees on a shift. You've got a couple in the back of the house and 4 servers or something like that, or 3 and 3 or whatever it works out to be, but they would have enough parking on site for 76 seats in the restaurant. The owner anticipates that this second story would add about 26 seats above what their seating capacity is now, which would equal 3 parking spaces.
3?
Right, so you have one parking space for every 6 seats in a restaurant. That's the way the ordinance
I was wondering how you came up with that.
It's not by the square footage.
Not by the square footage, so.
That was back in the
when you do
carpool days,
normal
though.
Commercial, like,
Yeah.
like a retail or something like
Yeah.
that, you need 1 square foot of parking space for every 3/4 of a square foot of actual store space. When you're dealing with a food establishment, you're looking at 1 space for every 6 seats. Again, kind of, and the reason I think it, is looking at 6 seats is because you're rarely at, or there's a very short, window where the restaurant is, at maximum occupancy. There certainly are times where restaurants, every seat is full, but that's not always the case. So, downtown is a tough, spot to get, parking. There's a number of buildings with no parking spaces downtown. So there's public parking that, we have to take into account. The city is looking at adding some more parking downtown in various places, but that has yet to be finalized or, built yet.
Yeah, that was definitely my concern last time, was the parking.
Yeah.
But we did recommend approval on it regardless, so.
Yeah. One question, on the picture, it shows that parapet wall remaining, but then on the, I guess the architect's rendition, it doesn't show that.
We've got just as a guess from having used 3D software, I think it's just a.
Yeah, so the architectural drawing, I'm just trying to show you the bottom.
Well, I understand, yeah, but I just,
He
for,
actually has been in the hospital for.
I don't want that to
4
come
weeks.
up later on down the road. If you take it down and somebody says, well, that picture showed it staying.
Yeah, no,
I don't want
it is
staying,
staying,
okay.
and the designer, he's been in the hospital for about 4 weeks, so I'm kind of
Yeah.
at that mercy. This is basically, like I said, I'm just trying to show the bottom deck. And
Right.
The existing structure outside of the roof and the deck, there is nothing on it changing. No
Okay.
colors are changing, the fence isn't changing, nothing is changing.
Right, okay.
Okay, so the footprint is the same.
Exactly, we're going right back in the same footprint, same everything.
Yeah, because it gets pretty tight back there with traffic coming behind.
Absolutely, yeah, and like I said, we're not
Yeah.
changing the footprint of it at all.
No room for a dumpster there.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of the planning hurdles for the construction, because obviously the first thing is the tear out, and we're gonna do it, basically we're gonna be tearing it down and throwing it in trucks, in dumpsters on the truck, and not even taking them off the truck, and just loading them and go.
Okay.
And,
All right.
and most likely, we're gonna try to do it in a window that maybe some businesses are closed.
Yeah.
And then the fun part will be when I bring in the crane, so.
Yeah. Well, Mondays are a good day. Nobody's open on Monday.
We'll do it when it's
Yeah.
raining or something, nobody's out.
All right,
All right. Well, good, okay.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, once we get the columns up, it'll be pretty, it won't be as bad, because at that point, once the concrete's done, I can actually unload a little mini lift on the concrete itself to lift up all the filler iron. It's just the 6 columns that we gotta stand up that are of pretty good size. So I'll either have a low lift or a little truck crane come in, but we could literally get all that put up within 4 or 5, 6 hours. So I actually own the property that's behind Phil's Roadhouse over there, and we're gonna do a lot of the fabrication over there. So we can just put them on a trailer, bring them over, stick them on there, and not lay it out, right in the middle of the street.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All righty. Well, I'll make a motion to approve the new exterior modifications at Cozy Grape at 14340 Liberty Street, as presented today on October 4th.
I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. The motion passes. Thank you.
I want over there and start tearing stuff down.
Maybe.
That's where it's going
I
tomorrow.
don't know.
Do what?
I said it's going to the building permit
I
tomorrow.
appreciate you. Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
And who was in the hospital?
Do what?
You? Who was in the?
No, my designer.
Oh, okay. It wasn't Tom or architect.
No. It was the designer that was doing the rendition for me, and he actually had his son finish the drawing for me. And I think his son YouTubed it real quick on how to do drawings. He sent it to me, and I was like, man. And his dad's actually working on a house I'm building it's over in Plantersville, and their shocker is going to be a wedding venue. We don't have enough of those.
We need more of those.
But he's designing. He was in the middle of designing it too, and the son called me and started asking me questions. I said, you know what? This is one of those ones that I have a little bit of time on, so let's just hope your dad gets better and have him call.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, hope he's okay. All right, looking forward to that. And item number 5 on the agenda, consideration and possible action on proposed canopy signage for the Simmons Bank ATM located at 14,340 Liberty Street in the Historic Preservation District.
The information's in your package. You might have seen that when they submitted this early last month, they had actually installed the signage. So the city worked with them to get that down. If there was a benefit to installing it first, as you see in your packet, again, to me, it was entirely out of scale. It's 30 inches tall. An ATM shouldn't be the most visually dominant thing on the street. I don't mind, and this is me speaking, but I don't mind the idea of a business needing to brand themselves, and I've never been a fan of trying to modify the branding of a business to look Western or particularly historic. Again, that's my view on it. A corporate brand is something that's very important to businesses, and it needs to be consistent. But the idea of the scale of it to me was just a bit larger than what it
And the other thing, it's illuminated from underneath. Does it need to be? It says it's illuminated, correct?
Look back at the application. I don't see where.
Maybe I misread
They
it.
got no on illuminated, so I don't think they were.
Oh, no, that's what I read.
It's
No,
not
no on.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And those those beams are solid, so I guess there's no lights in there.
But I would, the area I'd cut down is the width. That 1'7" width. The height, I don't think needs to be that tall.
Be something around 12 inches. So they've got a dimension there on the existing kind of
Right.
on the fascia of the canopy. There is 10 inches. To me, something about 12 inches or
Yeah.
less
I
than
mean,
half of what they have.
It's just something for visibility for foot traffic. I mean, there's no building there. They're not trying to bring people in off of 105. It's just for foot traffic. And if somebody wants to know if there's an ATM, there's only 10 shops downtown. They can point which way to go to get to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like it needs to be seen from 149,
Right.
from Liberty Street or from 105.
Anywhere, yeah.
And you're right, Dave. I mean, proportion-wise, what's showing here is just, it's so big, right, and it's right up against the Cozy Grape. So it seems like it's taken away from the look of the Cozy Grape.
Yeah, I didn't like it when it was in there. I saw it.
So,
Yeah, but like you said, David, we can't tell them they can't use their logo or their corporate design, but we can dictate the size.
proportion.
But isn't there like a little bit of nuance in the code though that has to be in keeping with downtown design like the character of downtown, right?
There is.
And I mean, like
certainly
each
is.
sign that comes to us, like, I don't know, I remember that Busty sign that came, you know, and it's like, well, that's not really in keeping and not tasteful so much, so.
Right. I mean, I do acknowledge, I mean, there's not a black and white line, right?
It would be cool if they did something unique, like a mural on it or Texas, like something, but you can't, I don't know how you
The lettering.
encourage that.
So when it was Spirit of Texas Bank, was there an awning there?
There wasn't awning there, they didn't,
But they didn't-
ask to do any type of signage on the awning or,
So,
it was, perhaps just a nod to the idea that, well, our logo is on the screen of the ATM. So people are gonna know, what the ATM is when they come up to it.
Right.
yeah, that's what I remember. It was on the ATM itself, I think, yeah. But,
Just like there's, if you go past it now, the home screen or what have you on the ATM, has their logo and
Right.
everything on it, so.
But if they need to have a sign, it needs to be cut down to at least 12 inches
yeah,
in height.
right. Just cover those beams.
And it is going to stick out.
But that's a lot less than what it is,
Yeah.
what the,
But then again, a cozy grape hides it coming from the north.
yeah.
Yeah.
But before, where did I see, was it 2 foot 6 inches or something?
Right, that's what the proposal was for a 30-inch tall sign, just by the width of
Yeah.
each side of the canopy.
So 12 inch would be a real good reduction.
It's about the size of the steel frame. What'd you say, it's about 10?
10 inches,
Yeah.
so.
So it'll hide that.
Yeah, just enough to hide, yeah. And 12-inch letters are pretty good, those are easy to read. Yep. And I guess we're assuming it's going to be the same, we can't really tell them what style lettering, but if they've got to do their standard red and white, just reduce it down, I guess, just. Unless they want to do a little historic theme, and you could suggest,
I will do whatever you guys decide to do, and that's what I'm gonna tell them.
all right.
Well, we're cutting down the size quite a bit on the height, so it's not going to be that intrusive.
Right,
At least we're not going to just see a gray steel structure.
yes,
The top.
good point. And banks tend to have standards that they have to kind of keep their
Right.
colors, their logos, their look. So I guess size would do it.
Can I see a picture of it again? Can you just go on? My computer died. Can I see a picture of it, like right now, or what it looked like?
Their logo has to stay on it.
Right there. It will be about half the size. If it wasn't red, it'd be all right.
Well, I move to deny proposed canopy signage as submitted.
I'll second that. I want to see it again.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you want to table it or as is, or you're just
Well, this-
denying?
Denying what is on our, like,
Okay.
as the plan submitted, yeah.
Okay.
Whatever is
Any
submitted.
stipulations or, suggestions, I guess?
Cut down on
The
size,
12-inch, well,
maybe if they want to do something unique, like bring some character and uniqueness to match downtown, I mean, that would be, but that's a suggestion only, I mean.
Okay. Okay, so yes, because the actual consideration is about the proposed
The big sign.
large one. Yeah, okay.
They were
So,
gonna be mad
great.
about-
We have a motion.
So what was your motion? To deny
Deny, yeah, and
as?
it was seconded.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
David.
Okay,
I
all right.
want to see it.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to see it come back.
Oh, I see, okay. Yeah, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, it passes, the motion passes unanimously.
I've got the kind of feedback, from you guys to be able to share with them, kind of what they need to work on.
Yeah, great. All right. I'd like to give us an update, since he is the interim city administrator, he can give us an update on the hiring process for the new city administrator.
Certainly. So as you are also aware, we are working with SGR, which is an executive search firm that specializes in local governments and county governments for these, types of spots. We advertised for about a month, received 38 applicants. Of those applicants, they were screened by SGR. So last night, the city council met, reviewed all of the qualified applicants, and selected 11 those to be semifinalists. And so from this point, kind of where we go from this point, is they, in about 3 weeks, will look at written questions and video questions that are submitted by the semifinalists, and from there they will narrow down to up to 6 finalists to interview. The schedule now looks like they would be interviewing those finalists in the second week of November, which, if we assume that they select one and move forward with, the likely date of that person to start would be sometime around the first of the year, depending on, where they're located, if they have family that needs to relocate, if they're currently working somewhere, and the notice that they would need to give. So right now, our best kind of guess would be sometime either just before or just after Christmas to see if the new administrator started.
Okay.
Which is a little bit longer than some of us thought. Process is going to take, but again, like I mentioned earlier, this is the most important position that a city, has. Certainly the administrator sets the tone and the direction of the city, based off the vision of city council. So it's worth taking the time and the effort to do it right. And I certainly look forward to getting back to planning and development and making progress on all the things that I thought I was going to be making progress on this year. So we've got a lot of important work to do here in the planning and zoning world to keep the city moving on in the right direction as we see all this future growth coming. So.
Good. All right, so we'll go with good things take time. So
Right.
hopefully
That's right.
it's done right.
I'll add, I will not be at your next meeting. I will be on vacation next meeting. Not sure who will be here in my stead. It'll likely be Nikki, our city secretary. Gets tasked with that in my absence. So I'll still be doing a lot of the agenda preparation and things like that. Anything that comes in the last week, I won't. I've already got 1 or 2 items that have been submitted that just didn't, that weren't submitted in time to make this agenda, so they'll be coming up in November.
Okay.
Thank you. And then I did have one question under inquiry. If you can give us any information on updates on Redbird development off of Old Plantersville. And the reason I bring this up is mainly the recent condition of Old Plantersville Road is really disintegrating. I ride my bicycle back there, and it's yesterday the high school track team is running down through there, and there's all kinds of things have come apart, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous for riding a bicycle too. Of course, you got to be careful anyway back there. But I remember the discussions we had was if, after the feasibility study, if the Redbird project does happen, I may not be clear on this, but I was under the impression that the developer would help with improvement of that road.
Right, so right now, when we annexed that property, we did not annex the road, so that's still a county road from our city limits, which is where the speed limit changes. So that's still a county road, but I would agree with you, I drop kids off and pick kids up,
Yeah.
Every day there, and it is, usually with a cup of coffee in my hand, and it's, a little bit, concerning at times, but.
Can't be too full.
I agree with you, there's a couple spots that just, totally given way.
Yeah.
On it, but that would be for the county, when we met with them probably a year ago, met with the developer and the county at the same time. There's a bit of a balancing act that, when you're gonna be bringing in concrete trucks and dump trucks and things like that, you don't do that on a brand new road and then tear the road up again. That said, it's gotta be usable and workable. And the county understands that, for us to accept the road, we accept the road in good new condition. So there will be some stuff that they have to work out, between the developer and the county on, and, they'll have to get their driveways approved then, by the county for what's inside the county, jurisdiction. So, but with that, since we've got both engineers here, if you guys want to share any piece that you know about the development.
Yeah, so they're also going to, part of their development is going to be dedicating additional right-of-way. So for ultimately being able to widen Old Plantersville Road and have more space, for utilities, et cetera. So I think there's an additional 10, 15 feet, if I remember right. Close, a lot of feet, closer to 30. But they'll to have per your thoroughfare plan and how that would also be widened. And the conversation with the county was a phased approach. So, potentially phase 1, they'll put in turn lanes. Phase 2, kind of after they do the next section of development, they'll go ahead and resurface or repair the road. And then by phase 3, they've connected through the development to Spring Branch to have that second or third, fourth point of access out to Spring Branch Road. So still to be determined. And as of right now, we haven't, the only thing we reviewed on the city's behalf for that development is a drainage study and one round of a drainage study. So I should be pretty soon. We should start seeing through this committee the preliminary plots and things like that start to come through because there should be getting close.
Well, it's a good example of what we've talked about before, about how developers can really help the impact, between the impact fees and any other agreements, that everybody can feel good about. There's always some negative about developments, but some of the positives are that they can help us to improve on our infrastructure. So I hope that's, the way we can see it happen, to whatever combination of things that they can do. But I did bring it up because just recently, there's 2 sections that have really come apart where there's some pretty loose stuff just all over the road. So maybe our guys, City Works, could even do something just temporarily to just kind of get some of those big pieces off the road.
What we'll do is have them contact Precinct 1 and again, see if they can get out to put a patch down that would, be durable enough to, last, until those improvements are made, not just a Band-Aid, but, get something in. With the drought that we've had this summer, even on other portions that are still intact, there's a lot of, undulation in the road itself that's, just a kind of a direct cause of the soils that we have here. And working with that, but I would agree with you 100%. And on the Vespa, it's even more fun.
Is that?
Try to get, on that road, and, it's, a lot of movement and.
It's a challenge.
It is.
Yeah. But and plus, like you say, with these open swale roads, over the time, they just settle more because of the boundaries. Well, thank you. It is something just recently that got worse, so thought I'd mention it. Anything else for inquiries?
How's code enforcement going?
It's going good. It is, there's, kind of, there's a couple, routes to take with code enforcement, and certainly the one that, that we've been committed to here is less of a kind of a hammer approach with code enforcement, and so there is a lot of, latitude and, kind of working with individual businesses and individual property owners to.
Is it complaint driven or is it?
A lot of it is, she, in her breakdown, if you guys ever see any of the second city council meeting of the month, in with the police department, monthly report, there's a code enforcement, she kind of breaks down, sort of how many internal, initiations there are, how many, resident initiations, how many, she's initiated. There's a good number that come from me. In terms of, here's something to, to be aware of, go take a look at it and see if there's something that we can do about this. One of the things that she had been focused on was signs. It's, you kind of get, 2 down and there's, 3 more that pop up, type thing. And again, trying to, kind of work with businesses to find a solution or, to get to a yes, as opposed to, just kind of going out and saying, so here's a citation. So there is a balancing act, kind of a, we want to be a partner with businesses and not necessarily someone who they always feel like are, working against them.
Right.
She's also handling our special event permit applications at the moment, so her time is, split a bit. Just that's the, one of the pitfalls of a, kind of a skeleton crew or, a small staff is, there's a lot of hats, to be worn at different times. And she's extremely thorough in what she does, and so she got the event applications. There's a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross there.
Right.
Good, yeah. Good use of the time. And helps her get to know the community more too. Well, good, appreciate it.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
If that's
We
okay.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
All right.
All right, good.
Y'all have a good evening.
Glad you're gonna be with us.
It does, I cannot believe that.